Quality, comfort, and grip at an affordable price. Whether it's our standard, pro, or elite socks, there's an option for everyone. Try a pair for yourself now at puregripsocks.com.
For the first time in Nike history, the Superfly is cheaper than the Vapor. And it also has ACC again, at least for now. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to what was once a mainstay in the Mercurial lineup, but then unexplainably went away for some reason, but is now back again, the Nike Zoom Mercurial Superfly 10 Pro. The first takedown model below the top-end Elite, a boot that normally retails for $285. However, the Superfly 10 Pro comes in at a much lower price tag of $150, which in this particular brand new pink colorway is for some reason $10 less than the Vapor 16 Pro. Where if you're familiar with Nike's pricing system, usually when you're talking about the Pro tier options, the low-cut model is $10 less than the mid-cut model. That's how it is with the Phantoms, that's how historically it's been with the Mercurials, but for whatever reason, right now, and I'm not sure if this is a mistake that they will change, the Superfly is $150, and the Vapor is $160. And they also added back ACC, something that was not featured on the early colorways of the Mercurial Pro takedown models from the current generation. I mean, is it possible that Nike just decided to lower the price for the benefit of the average consumer? Well, it's Nike, so probably not. I just think it is a mistake. But given that this is such a highly anticipated takedown model that for whatever reason wasn't readily available from the get-go with this new Mercurial generation, you might as well take advantage of their mistake, because as far as takedown model speed boots go, especially if you wanted one with the mid-cut upper, I happen to think these are pretty good. But of course, nothing's perfect, which is why in today's video, we're gonna go over the good and the bad of the Superfly 10 Pro and even talk about how they compare to the more expensive Elite models, helping you decide whether or not you should save a little bit of money or spend a little extra and just go for that top-end version. So if you're interested in learning more, including how they fit and feel on feet, please stick around, watch the entire review, and if you are interested in a pair for yourself, you can pick them up below their normal retail price with an SR4U coupon code via the first link down below, as long as Nike does not change the price on us, because I'm pretty sure these are supposed to retail for $170. And as always, if you guys appreciate the unsponsored, brutally honest reviews on this channel, don't forget to drop a like on the video and make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2025. Now, if you've seen my review of the Vapor 16 Pro, then you pretty much know my opinion of the Superfly 10 Pro, because at the end of the day, it's the exact same football boot with the addition of some Flyknit wrapping around the lower part of your ankle, where normally it would cost you an extra $25 for that when you're talking about the Superfly 10 Elite versus the Vapor 16 Elite, but for whatever reason at the moment, when it's the Pro, you actually save $10 to get more. Where as far as mid-cut collars from Nike go, this is pretty much exactly like what you're going to find on the Elites, which again, great value for money considering that this is the less expensive Pro tier option, but also something that is totally unnecessary in regards to the overall performance of the final product. If you like the way that it looks or you like the way that it feels, perhaps it just helps you with preventing rubber pellets from getting inside of your football boots, although you should not be wearing an FG stud pattern on artificial grass, especially one as aggressive as this is. By all means, go for the mid-cut option, but in my opinion, and this has pretty much always been the case, when you're talking about a pair of speed boots, I just think it makes more sense to have less material rather than more. But that's enough about the collar, because what you're actually going to notice when playing in these boots is the upper, which is made entirely from their Flyknit material, something that used to be exclusive to their top-end models. The Superfly 4 very famously introduced Flyknit into the world of the Mercurial Superfly series, but it's now available on a $150 takedown model, and honestly, it feels pretty premium. It's soft, it's flexible, it gives you that sock-like sensation. It's maybe not as structured as what you're going to find from an elite tier Mercurial in terms of squeezing your foot and giving you that super kind of locked in, really responsive sensation, construction, but with the laces tied tight, this still has plenty of structure to give you that secure feel on your feet that I would argue is still very much Mercurial-esque, despite the overall shaping of this boot maybe being a little bit wider and more forgiving than what you get from that top-end Elite variation. Where, as you'd expect from any Merc, the upper is super thin, giving you that barefoot feel, but again, a big difference coming from the Elites right now is that this does not feature their Nike Grip technology. Instead, the top layer of this Flyknit is finished in their usual smooth Nike skin material that doesn't really provide much in the way of extra grip at all. However, like I mentioned at the start of the video, they have also re-added the ACC branding on the medial side of the foot, which they actually started doing on the Vapor 16 Pro on the more recent colorways. How does this change the overall feel and performance of the upper? Well, like I've talked about so many times before, unless they physically print ACC on the upper, there is no way for us to know that it's actually there. And now that it is there, surprise, surprise, no different. If you would like to believe that the ACC tech is going to provide better grip on the ball in all weather conditions, then by all means be my guest. But like I've talked about so many times before, ACC seems to offer different grip levels on whatever boot it's featured on, and even when compared to, again, the top-end Elite model with its Nike Grip upper without ACC, that provides significantly more grip on the ball in both dry and wet conditions than these do. Like every Mercurial model ever, the laces run directly down the middle. You get a one-piece upper construction with the central portion of the upper underneath that lacing system being filled in with an elasticated Flyknit material that of course flows directly into the collar, where at the back of the boot you are going to find an internal plastic heel counter, again very similar to that of the top-end model and also identical in construction to that of the Vapor 16 Pro, where internally you have that really smooth microfiber material, a little bit of extra padding compared to what you get from the Elites that you may or may not find more comfortable. At the end of the day, it is very much a matter of personal preference, but personally, I find it to be quite comfortable considering that this is a tighter fitting style of football boot. Then the insole is fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that, where you can see it features a standard mesh liner on the surface, and it's made from a single layer of this black foam, where you'll notice this very peculiar shaped cutout underneath the heel, which makes a little bit of extra space for what is your Air Zoom tech on this particular football boot, which is not a 3/4 length unit running from the tip of the toe to the base of the heel, but instead a tiny little zoom unit underneath your heel that effectively does nothing, which you can see a little bit better on the low cut Vapor just because it lets more light in. Does it provide some cushion? Absolutely, but the effect is so subtle that if I didn't tell you it was there, you probably would never notice. Moving to the base, you'll find a sole plate that is aesthetically a lot less attractive than what you get on the top end model, and that's because it's built quite a bit differently. The plastic is entirely different, where overall it's still responsive, but it is also more flexible than what you'll find on the Elites. Plenty of rigidity through the midfoot and heel, so it still has that very Mercurial-esque feel to it. It's maybe just not quite as impressive as the Elites, but certainly if you're not a big fan of that 3/4 length zoom unit on that top end model, this is arguably more traditional in terms of the Mercurial-esque feel that it provides. So while it's a takedown model, it still feels fast underfoot, if that makes any sense. And then as far as the FG stud pattern is concerned, that directly carries over from the top end model, where it's pretty much all blades, chevrons in the forefoot, 2 little blades at the tip of the toe, and overall just so much bite when pushing off in pretty much every direction. If you're looking for maximum grip, the Mercurial series has always been known for that, and this Pro Tier takedown model definitely delivers on that promise. And then there's the weight, where they're still Mercurials, they're still $150. The expectation should be that they're going to feel lightweight on your feet, which is exactly what we're going to find out using the scale, and we're also going to compare it to that $285 top-end Elite model just to see what the difference actually is, both in the same size 9.5 US. We'll start off with the top-end Elites, and you can see that they weigh in at a very light weight, 6.75 ounces, the equivalent of 191 grams. Remember those numbers, change the scale back to ounces, and we'll throw on the Pros, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.5 ounces, the equivalent of 213 grams, which means that the pros are 22 grams heavier than the top end elites. Not an insignificant amount of weight, but still light enough to where these fall into the same weight range as so many top end football boots that cost significantly more. And unlike so many takedown model speed boots that just gain so much weight compared to the top end variations that it almost calls into question whether or not we should even consider them speed boots at all, I will applaud Nike for the fact that even though they are heavier than the elites, they're still overall very lightweight in terms of their feel on feet. On feet, the Superfly 10 Pro feels really good. What you'd expect a pair of Mercurials to feel like, but of course at a lower price point. If we're comparing this directly to the top end Superfly 10 Elite, there's definitely a little bit of extra width, a little bit more forgiveness in the material, and that it's just not quite as structured, or at least it's not cut in quite as aggressive a way where it's not grabbing the inside of your foot quite as snugly. But overall, they still feel like they're super secure on your feet. There's no extra movement inside of the upper, and they have that general sensation of just feeling fast. The sole plate is also going to be a big difference here in that you don't have that underfoot cushion from the Zoom unit underneath the forefoot in particular, which means that these just feel more like every Mercurial before the latest two generations, where they did introduce that Zoom unit underfoot, which is not necessarily a good or a bad thing. It's at the end of the day very much a matter of personal preference. I prefer the feel of that little bit of extra cushion that you get from the Elite model, but if that's not your cup of tea or you just don't care for it, I think you're really gonna like the feel of this takedown model sole plate, despite technically not being the best of the best of what Nike currently has on offer. And like I mentioned, that Zoom unit underneath the heel, you pretty much don't feel it, even if you're looking for it. It's such a minor element. I wouldn't really buy these boots in anticipation of feeling the Air Zoom tech. In comparison to the low-cut Vapor 16 Pro, there's pretty much no difference here other than that extra fly knit around your ankle, where again, if that's your cup of tea, by all means go for the mid-cut variation. Otherwise, I just think the low-cut model is the way to go. From a width perspective, they're tight-fitting Mercurials, where if you've worn Mercurials in the past and they fit you well, or at least you like the way that they fit, I don't see any reasons why these also wouldn't work out for you. But certainly if you have really wide feet, these probably wouldn't be the best option. And then as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you are looking to get a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, while there technically aren't very many alternatives, if you are on the market for a budget-friendly mid-cut pair of speed boots, I can very confidently say that the Superfly 10 Pro is the best one you can get. They're lightweight, they give you that barefoot feel, they strike a nice balance of having a comfortable feel but also having that tight, responsive Mercurial signature fit, and you get that super aggressive traction at a price that is nearly half of what the Superfly 10 Elite goes for. Of course, you don't get the grip knit, you don't get the 3/4 length Zoom unit, and the Elites are that little bit lighter. And if those are all features that you really want, then by all means, it's worth the extra money to go for the Elites. But as a compromise, or perhaps somebody that just likes a more simple take on a fly knit Mercurial, if again, you really want a mid-cut version, this I can strongly recommend. But if you don't want mid-cut, I would also probably just go for the Vapor 16 Pro because it's the exact same football boot minus the collar, and I guess technically a couple grams lighter too. Regardless, it's one of the best budget-friendly speed boots currently on the market.